I'm Sarah Whitfield, a single mom with flour-dusted hands and $43 in my bank account when they laughed me out of that bake sale. Her tears mixed with the collapsed buttercream disaster as the PTA mothers snickered, Melissa's cutting words slicing deeper than any knife. Stick to cleaning toilets. Honey, some of us have actual talent. What they didn't know was that Sarah's daughter was waiting at home, hoping mommy's cake would finally pay this month's rent. What secret ingredient transformed Sarah's humiliation into the town's most celebrated bakery? Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that will break your heart before putting it back together. Share your own comeback stories. We're all listening. Sarah clutched the cake carrier to her chest as she trudged up the 3 flights to their apartment. Each step felt heavier than the last. The flickering hallway light cast shadows across her face, hiding the tears that refused to stop. She paused outside 3B, composing herself before turning the key. The lock stuck, as always. One more thing she couldn't afford to fix. "Mommy," Emma's voice rang out as the door swung open. 6 years old with Sarah's auburn curls and her father's dimples, the only good thing he'd left behind. "Did they like your cake? Did you sell it all?" Sarah set down the carrier, hanging her coat on the wobbly rack. "There was a little accident, sweetie. Can I see?" Emma reached for the container. "It's not pretty anymore," Sarah gently intercepted her daughter's hand. "How about I make us some mac and cheese instead?" The apartment was small but meticulously clean, a professional habit Sarah couldn't shake. While Emma colored at the kitchen table, Sarah opened the refrigerator. Half a gallon of milk, some butter, 3 eggs. The cupboard revealed 1 box of macaroni, a can of tuna, and some cereal. She'd spent their food money on cake ingredients. On the refrigerator door, the red eviction warning glared back at her. "Final notice. Payment due in 5 days." "Did my drawing help you make a pretty cake?" Emma asked, holding up a crayon masterpiece of multicolored swirls. "It was the most beautiful cake ever because of your drawing," Sarah managed. "Then why didn't they buy it?" Sarah stirred the pasta harder than necessary. Sometimes people don't recognize special things. After tucking Emma into bed with a story about a princess who baked magical cakes, Sarah retreated to the bathroom, the only private space in their tiny home. She sat on the edge of the tub, finally allowing herself to break. 2 years ago, Mark had walked out after announcing he'd outgrown their marriage. 6 months later, he'd stopped sending child support without explanation. Last Sarah heard, he was in California with his 23-year-old girlfriend. The sobs came silently at first, then evolved into gulping, shuddering gasps that she muffled with a towel. She'd lost her receptionist job when the dental office downsized. The cleaning service paid less but worked around Emma's school hours. Today's bake sale had been her desperate attempt at supplemental income. Melissa Spencer's voice echoed in her head. "Stick to cleaning toilets. Honey, some of us have actual talent." The same Melissa whose mansion Sarah had cleaned last Tuesday, who hadn't recognized her outside the context of vacuums and disinfectant. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. Just a reminder about Friday's deadline. She splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. Tired eyes, pale skin, determination wavering but not yet extinguished. "I just need one break," she whispered to herself. "Just one thing to go right. 5 days to find rent money." 5 days before Emma's safe world collapsed. Sarah straightened her shoulders. A habit from when her grandmother would say, "Stand tall when the world tries to shrink you." Grandma rose. The thought sparked something in Sarah's memory. Perhaps there was one place she hadn't looked for help yet. The hallway closet was Sarah's archive of the past. She reached up to the top shelf, fingers stretching until they grazed the familiar wooden box. It tumbled into her waiting arms, sending a small cloud of dust dancing in the dim light. Grandma Rose's recipe box. Sarah hadn't opened it since the funeral 3 years ago. She'd inherited Rose's collection of handwritten recipes but never her magical touch with baking. Or so she'd thought. She carried the box to the kitchen table and gently lifted the lid. The scent of cinnamon and vanilla somehow preserved in the wood grain transported her instantly to Rose's kitchen. Sunday afternoons learning to measure flour by feel. Holiday mornings with dough between her fingers. "You've got baker's hands," Rose used to say. "Some people are born with them." Sarah rifled through the alphabetized dividers. Bread, cookies, pastry. Each card bore Rose's elegant script, occasional splatters of ingredients, testament to their frequent use. Behind the cake section, Sarah discovered a small, yellowed envelope she'd never noticed before. Her name was written on the front. Inside was a single recipe card, titled simply, "The Last Resort Cake." The ingredients were standard flour, sugar, butter, but with unusual additions: 3 drops of lemon oil for bitterness transformed, a pinch of salt from tears already cried, and most curious, the memory of mockery, stirred until dissolved. At the bottom, Rose had written, "For when they doubt you most, the secret is in what they think you lack." Sarah traced the faded handwriting, remembering how Rose had started her bakery after Sarah's grandfather died, when everyone said a widow had no business opening a shop. How it had supported their family for 30 years. Rose had faced mockery. 2. Sarah checked the time: 11:20 p.m. Emma was sound asleep. The grocery store, 3 blocks away, closed at midnight. She counted the money in her wallet. $43.17, enough for basic ingredients, if she was careful. "This is crazy," she whispered, even as she grabbed her coat. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned with a small bag of necessities. She set up her mixing bowls as quietly as possible, lining up measuring cups with the precision of her cleaning routine. The recipe's instructions were odd: mix until you remember your worth. Fold in kindness the world has forgotten to show you. Bake until the scent reminds you of possibility. Sarah followed as best she could, interpreting the cryptic directions through the lens of Rose's lessons. As she stirred, she allowed herself to remember every dismissive comment, every sideways glance, every time Melissa and her friends had looked through her as if she were invisible. The kitchen filled with a warm, sweet aroma, unlike anything Sarah had baked before. She'd followed Rose's recipe exactly, yet added nothing that should have created this unique fragrance: something like caramelized sugar, vanilla, and a hint of something unidentifiable. Something like ... hope. When the timer dinged, Sarah opened the oven to find a perfectly risen golden cake. No collapsing center, no burnt edges. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered, setting it on the rack to cool. As the night deepened around her, Sarah carefully frosted her creation with the remaining buttercream from her failed attempt. Her hands moved with newfound confidence. This time, the icing cooperated, spreading smoothly. By the time she added the final decorative swirl, the first hints of dawn were creeping through the window. Sarah stepped back, examining her work with critical eyes. It was beautiful, it was perfect, it was exactly what she'd tried to create for the bake sale. Now, she just needed someone to taste it. "Mom, you didn't sleep." Emma stood in the kitchen doorway, rubbing her eyes, still in her unicorn pajamas. Sarah startled, realizing she'd been staring at the cake for nearly an hour. "Just a little project, sweetie. It's so pretty." Emma approached the counter slowly, as if the cake might disappear if she moved too quickly, like the ones in the bakery window. Sarah smiled wearily. "Want to be my taste tester?" Emma nodded enthusiastically, climbing onto a kitchen chair. Sarah cut a small slice, watching nervously as her daughter took the first bite. Emma's eyes widened. She chewed slowly, then faster. "Mommy, it tastes like ... like ... She struggled to find the words. "Like birthday happiness and Christmas morning mixed together." Sarah laughed, cutting herself a piece. The flavor bloomed across her tongue, rich, complex, with notes of vanilla and caramel, but something more. Something that tasted like the childhood memories of cake that are always better than the reality. It was the best thing she'd ever baked, by far. "What's it called?" Emma asked, already finishing her slice. Sarah hesitated. Most cakes had fancy names like Vanilla Dream or Chocolate Decadence, but looking at this creation born from tears and desperation after Melissa's cutting remark, a rebellious thought formed. "It's called Toilet Cleaner," she said with a straight face. Emma giggled, spraying crumbs. "That's a silly name for something so yummy." "Sometimes," Sarah said, "the silliest names hide the most special things." After getting Emma ready for school, Sarah made an impulsive decision. She took several photos of the cake from different angles, making sure the morning light captured its perfect texture and glossy frosting. She posted them to her barely used Instagram account with trembling fingers. "This is my toilet cleaner cake, named after what someone said I should stick to doing instead of baking. It's vanilla bean with caramel buttercream. I've failed a lot lately, but not with this. Sometimes the thing people mock becomes your masterpiece. #failure cake, #single mom baker, #last resort." She hit post before she could reconsider, then rushed Emma to school. Cake forgotten until afternoon, When Sarah checked her phone during her lunch break from cleaning houses, she nearly dropped it. Her post had 127 likes, more than anything she'd ever shared, dozens of comments. "This looks amazing. Do you sell these? Love the name and the story behind it. Toilet cleaner never looked so delicious. How much would you charge to make one for my daughter's birthday?" And most surprisingly, a message from Diane Foster, the kindergarten teacher at Emma's school. "Sarah, I've been looking for something unique for my husband's 40th birthday this weekend. Would you consider selling this cake? Name your price." Sarah stared at the message, heart racing. The cake at home was still fresh. She could deliver it tomorrow. But what should she charge? Bakery cakes ran $30 to $60, depending on size and decoration. Her phone pinged with another notification, the rent reminder. Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah replied to Diane, "I'd be honored. $44, this 8-inch cake. I can deliver it tomorrow after school pickup." Diane's response came immediately, "Perfect, can't wait." Sarah finished cleaning her client's bathroom in a daze, mind spinning with calculations. The ingredients had cost about $15. That meant $25. Profit, not enough for rent, but something. A start. That evening, she carefully boxed the cake while Emma watched. "Are we really selling it, Mommy?" "Yes, honey. Ms. Foster is buying it for her husband's birthday." Emma tilted her head. "Will you make another one? Can I help?" Sarah looked at her daughter's hopeful face, then at the recipe card propped against the toaster. "Absolutely. In fact, I think we might need to make several." Emma clapped her hands. "Can we name the next one something silly too?" Sarah smiled, a plan forming. "I think every cake we make should have a special name. A name that turns something bad into something sweet. Like magic," Emma exclaimed. "Exactly like magic," Sarah agreed, already wondering what her next failure could transform into. The next afternoon, Sarah's hands trembled as she handed the cake box to Diane Foster in the school parking lot. "It looks even better than your photo," Diane marveled, peeking inside. "What did you call it again?" Sarah blushed. Toilet cleaner." Instead of being offended, Diane burst out laughing. "That's brilliant. Wait till the faculty lounge hears about this. It's just someone told me to stick to cleaning toilets instead of baking. So, ... Well, their loss is definitely our gain." Diane handed Sarah to $20 bills. "I'll let you know how it goes over." Sarah stared at the money as Diane drove away. Real payment for something she'd created. She took a photo of the bills and posted it with a caption, "First official sale of my toilet cleaner cake. To the person who said I should stick to cleaning toilets, thank you for the inspiration. #failure cake, #sweet revenge, #single mom hustle." By the time she and Emma got home, the post had been shared in a local community Facebook group. Comments were pouring in. "Wait, is this the same cake from the PTA disaster? Glow up? I need the backstory. On this toilet cake, are you taking orders? My husband would die laughing at this." Sarah's phone pinged with a notification from Diane, a photo of a half-eaten cake surrounded by smiling teachers. Captioned, "The famous toilet cleaner cake was devoured in record time at my husband's birthday. Sarah Whitfield is hiding some serious baking talent." Another ping, a direct message from someone Sarah didn't know. "Hi, I'm Jessica from Brewer Street. Saw Diane's post about your cake. My daughter's 16th birthday is next week and she would love something with this kind of story behind it. Do you have a chocolate version? What would you charge for a cake that feeds 20? Sarah nearly dropped her phone. She'd never baked for that many people. But Grandma Rose had scaled up recipes all the time. She quickly checked her recipe box. Yes, there was Rose's chocolate cake. Could she adapt the last resort techniques? "I can do a chocolate cake with ganache frosting," she typed back. "For 20 people, I'd charge $75. It was more than she'd ever asked for anything. But the ingredients and time would be substantial. Jessica replied instantly, "Perfect. When can I order?" 3 more messages arrived while Sarah was responding. "Do you have a website? Can you do cupcakes with the same recipe? Saw your cake on Diane's Facebook. My wife's birthday is next month. Do you deliver to Westside?" Emma peered over her shoulder. "Mommy, why is your phone making so much noise?" "People like our cake, sweetie. They want to buy their own." Emma's eyes widened. "All of them. We'll need more sprinkles." Sarah laughed, feeling lightheaded. "We might need more of everything." That night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah created a simple Facebook business page, Failure Cakes by Sarah. She wrote a brief about section, Every cake is named after something someone said I couldn't do, shouldn't do, or would fail at. Turns out, failure tastes pretty sweet. Single mom baker, taking limited orders while supplies last. She added photos of the toilet cleaner cake and listed 3 flavors available for order, each with a blank where the name would go. I'll create a custom failure name for each cake unless you have a personal failure you'd like to celebrate. Before going to bed, Sarah checked her dwindling supplies. She'd need to buy more ingredients, proper boxes, maybe some business cards. The $40 from today would have to be reinvested. 5 days until rent was due. Sarah took a deep breath. 1 day at a time, she whispered, echoing Grandma Rose's favorite saying. Her phone chimed with a notification. Her page already had 27 followers and 2 more inquiries. For the first time in months, Sarah fell asleep without worry, crushing her chest. Instead, she dreamed of cakes rising, each one taller than the last. Building a staircase, she and Emma climbed together, up toward a bright, sweet-smelling future. Sarah stood on Jessica's porch, chocolate cake balanced carefully in her arms, her first official order. She'd spent every free moment over the past 2 days perfecting it, following Grandma Rose's cryptic instructions while scaling the recipe. She rang the doorbell, heart pounding. You must be Sarah. Jessica swung the door open with a warm smile. Come in, come in. I've been telling everyone about my daughter's special cake. Sarah stepped into a home 3 times the size of her apartment. Family photos lined the walls, happy vacations, graduation ceremonies, moments of a life unburdened by constant financial worry. It's in here. Sarah carefully opened the box, revealing a 2-layer chocolate cake with glossy ganache frosting. Delicate chocolate shards created a crown effect around the top. Jessica gasped, "It's gorgeous. What did you name this one?" "The Just a Phase cake," Sarah explained. "My ex-husband said my baking was just a phase when we were dating." Jessica laughed, perfect for a teenager's birthday. Speaking of payment, she handed Sarah an envelope. A little extra for the short notice. Inside was $100, $25 more than the quoted price. "I can't," Sarah began. "You absolutely can," Jessica interrupted. "Quality deserves compensation." Driving home, Sarah couldn't stop smiling. The money would cover half their rent. 2 more cakes this size and they'd make it through the month. Her phone chimed at a stoplight. A text from Jessica. "The cake is amazing. My daughter wants to know if you do wedding cakes. Her friend just got engaged." Wedding cakes. Sarah's mind raced. Those went for hundreds of dollars. That evening, she sat at the kitchen table with Emma, calculating costs while her daughter colored. Ingredients, $22. Gas for delivery, $5. New cake pans, $18. Sarah muttered, writing figures in a notebook. Profit, $55. Emma looked up. "Is that a lot, Mommy?" Sarah smiled. "It's a start, honey." Her phone buzzed again. A message from Diane Foster. "My sister wants the recipe for that incredible cake. I told her no way she needs to order from you directly. Can I give her your number?" Sarah typed back, "Absolutely. And thank you for spreading the word." More notifications appeared. 3 new followers on her business page, another inquiry about birthday cupcakes, and a comment from Jessica with photos of her daughter's party. The chocolate cake prominently featured. Sarah opened her calendar app, creating a makeshift order tracking system. If she baked 1 cake per day after Emma went to bed, she could fulfill all the current requests by the weekend. She clicked on Jessica's photos, studying the delight on the birthday girl's face. As she read the cake's name card, the teenager was laughing, pointing at the cake while her friends clustered around. Sarah had created that moment. Her failure transformed into someone else's joy. For the first time since Mark left, she felt a flicker of something beyond survival. Pride, purpose, possibility. Emma climbed into her lap, pointing at the screen. "Can I help with the next cake, Mommy?" "Of course, sous chef." Sarah hugged her tight. "We're a team now." Later, as she tucked Emma into bed, her daughter asked sleepily, "Are we going to be okay now?" Sarah brushed auburn curls from Emma's forehead. "Yes, sweetie, I think we just might be." She meant it. Something had shifted, like a cake reaching that perfect moment in baking, when the structure sets and you know it won't collapse. They still had challenges. A head rent was still due. Supplies needed restocking, and this sudden business had no formal structure. But for the first time in years, Sarah felt the ingredients of her life coming together in a new, promising recipe. 3 weeks later, Sarah's kitchen had transformed into a mini bakery. Mixing bowls occupied every surface. A handwritten production schedule was taped to the refrigerator. New baking pans gleamed in freshly organized cabinets. Emma sat at the kitchen table, carefully placing paper doilies into small cake boxes, while Sarah piped rosettes onto cupcakes. "These are single mom specials," Sarah explained, referring to the batch of red velvet cupcakes with cream cheese frosting. Mrs. Peterson from the PTA said single moms always want special treatment. "But they're for Mr. Jenkins' birthday," Emma said, confused. "That's what makes it funny, sweetie." Sarah winked. "The names don't match what people expect, just like me." The single mom special had become her bestseller after a local real estate agent ordered 3 dozen for an office party. The Welfare Queen chocolate caramel cake, named after a whispered comment at the school office, was a close second. Each creation came with a small card explaining its name's origin. Stories of underestimation that resonated with customers in unexpected ways. Sarah's phone pinged with a Facebook notification. Another 5-star review. "Ordered the college dropout cheesecake for my promotion party." The irony was delicious, and so was the cake. Sarah's turning insults into the sweetest revenge. Sarah smiled, remembering the guidance counselor who'd told her culinary school was a waste of time for a pregnant 18-year-old. Her bank account balance had stabilized, rent was paid, with enough left for groceries and supplies. She'd even started a small savings account for Emma's future. "Order for Garcia is done," Sarah announced, closing the last box. "Then we have the too pretty to be smart macarons for Dr. Williams' daughter's graduation." Emma looked up from her homework. "Mommy, we need a bigger table." Sarah surveyed their apartment. Emma was right. The kitchen table barely contained their daily production. Cooling racks balanced precariously on the counter. Their tiny refrigerator couldn't accommodate large sheet cakes. "We might need a bigger everything, sweetie." The doorbell rang. Their neighbor Carlos, who had started helping with deliveries in exchange for leftover cake scraps. "Ready for the Garcia delivery?" he asked, eyeing the stack of boxers. "All yours." Sarah handed him the address and cash for gas. "There's extra frosting in the blue container. For your kids." After Carlos left, Sarah checked her orders for the next day. Mrs. Abernathy's retirement party needed a Women Can't Run Businesses layer cake, and the Henderson twins' birthday required 2 dozen participation trophy cupcakes. The orders were outpacing her capacity. Her phone rang in, unknown number. "Failure cakes. This is Sarah, Ms. Whitfield." "This is Patricia from the health department." Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd researched home bakery regulations but hadn't completed all the paperwork yet. "We've received a complaint about an unlicensed food business at your address." Sarah sank into a chair, watching Emma happily decorating box labels. "I'm just starting out," Sarah explained, voice trembling. "I was planning to get properly licensed." "I'm sure you were," Patricia interrupted. "But, until then, you can't sell food prepared in a residential kitchen without proper certification and inspection." "How long does licensing take?" 6 to 8 weeks, assuming your setup passes inspection." 8 weeks. Their momentum would vanish. Customers would find other bakers. "Thank you for the information," Sarah managed. "I'll stop immediately." She hung up, fighting tears. "What's wrong, Mummy?" Emma asked, sensing the shift in mood. Sarah forced a smile. "Just a little business problem, honey. Nothing we can't figure out." But as she looked around their apartment-turned-bakery, she wondered if their sweet success had just crumbled like her first failed cake. "Have a great day, sweetie." Sarah straightened Emma's collar outside the elementary school entrance. For the first time in months, both their clothes were new, modest purchases from the clearance rack, but without the worn edges and faded colors that had marked them before. Emma hugged her tightly. "Will you make another cake when I get home?" "We'll see," Sarah answered carefully, not wanting to explain their business hurdle yet. "Maybe we'll try a new recipe." As Emma skipped toward her classroom, Sarah turned to leave and nearly collided with Melissa Spencer. Well, Melissa's perfectly glossed lips curved into a smirk. "If it isn't the toilet cleaner turned baker." Sarah's cheeks burned. So Melissa had seen her Facebook page. "Good morning, Melissa," she replied evenly. "You know, some people might consider it tasteless to name food products after bathroom cleaning." Melissa adjusted her designer handbag. "Not exactly appetizing." Several other PTA mothers lingered nearby, watching the exchange with poorly concealed interest. Something shifted inside. Sarah, the same feeling she'd had while stirring Grandma Rose's special cake batter. A certainty that replaced doubt. Actually, she said, voice stronger than she expected, people find it inspiring. Everyone's been laughed at or put down at some point. My cakes remind them they can turn mockery into something sweet. Melissa's eyes narrowed. How entrepreneurial. Selling mediocre baked goods with a sob story attached. They're not mediocre. The words came out firm, confident. They're excellent. That's why they're selling. A woman Sarah recognized as new to the school approached them. Excuse me, are you Sarah Whitfield? The failure cakes lady, Sarah nodded, feeling Melissa's glare intensify. I thought so. My sister had your participation trophy cupcakes at her office. She can't stop talking about them. The woman fumbled in her purse for her phone. I'd love to order for my book club this weekend. 20 women with plenty of failure stories to share. Sarah hesitated, the health department warning fresh in her mind. I'm actually restructuring my business right now. She'll take your order, Melissa interrupted unexpectedly. Both women turned to stare at her. Sarah's cakes are quite memorable. There was something in Melissa's tone, not quite praise, but not the expected mockery either. Almost like reluctant respect. Great. The woman handed Sarah her phone. Put your number in, and I'll text you details. After the woman walked away, Sarah turned to Melissa, confused by her intervention. Why did you do that? Melissa adjusted her sunglasses. Let's just say I recognize determination when I see it. Not everyone bounces back from public humiliation. Before Sarah could respond, Melissa added, besides, my son hasn't stopped asking for another toilet cake since he tried a piece at Diane Foster's house. Apparently, it was the best thing he's ever tasted. Sarah blinked in surprise. Your son wants my cake. Ironic, isn't it? Melissa's smile was tight, but genuine. He's got a birthday next month. We'll probably need to discuss options. As Melissa walked away, Sarah stood frozen on the sidewalk, processing what had just happened. The queen bee of the PTA, the woman whose mockery had started this journey, was now a potential customer, and she still had no legal kitchen to bake in. Sarah pulled out her phone, searching commercial kitchen rental as she walked to her car. The results showed several options, all far outside her budget. A text appeared from the book club woman, so excited about our order. My sister says your story is as delicious as your cakes. How did you get started? Sarah stared at the message, remembering the collapsed cake, the tears, the discovery of Rose's recipe box, the journey from mockery to growing business. She wasn't about to let bureaucracy stop her now. I'm not backing down, she whispered to herself as she started the car. Not when we've come this far. She needed to find a commercial kitchen and fast. Sarah paced her apartment, phone pressed to her ear. $300 per day. That's more than I make on most orders. She thanked the commercial kitchen manager and ended the call, crossing another option off her list. Every rental kitchen in town charged rates that would devour her slim profits. The cheapest wanted a 6-month contract plus security deposit money she simply didn't have. Emma sat at the kitchen table, sorting sprinkles by color. Can we bake today, Mommy? Not for customers, sweetie. Remember what I explained about the special license? Emma's face fell. But what about all the cake orders on the refrigerator list? Sarah glanced at their production schedule. 12 orders, representing nearly $800 in income they desperately needed. I'm working on a solution, she promised, though each hour brought them closer to disappointing customers and losing momentum. Her phone chimed with a text from Carlos. My cousin works at Blessed Savior Church, says they have commercial kitchen hardly anyone uses. Maybe ask them. Sarah's pulse quickened. She knew the church, a small building with an aging congregation about 10 blocks away. She'd walked past it countless times but never entered. Worth a try, she murmured, grabbing her purse. Emma, how about we take a little walk? 20 minutes later, they stood in front of the modest brick church. A sign on the door read, Office hours, 10 to 2, Tuesday, Thursday. Today was Tuesday. Sarah checked her watch. 1:45 p.m. Inside, they found a small office where an elderly man with thick glasses sat reading. Excuse me, Sarah began hesitantly. I'm looking for information about possibly using the church kitchen. The man looked up, his weathered face breaking into a smile. I'm Pastor Miller. How can I help you? Sarah explained her situation, the burgeoning home bakery, The health department warning, the search for an affordable commercial space. It's called Failure Cakes, Emma added proudly. We make cakes with funny names that used to be mean things people said. Pastor Miller chuckled, turning the other cheek into something sweet, quite biblical, in its way. He tapped his fingers thoughtfully on the desk. Our kitchen was renovated 5 years ago for the homeless breakfast program, but that ended when our volunteer coordinator moved away. It's fully commercial grade, health department approved, and sits empty most days. Hope fluttered in Sarah's chest. Would it be possible to rent it occasionally? I could work around church events. Rent? Pastor Miller looked surprised. I was thinking more of an arrangement. We have monthly potlucks after service. If you could provide dessert, the kitchen is yours other times. Sarah stared at him. That's incredibly generous. May I ask, the pastor said, what got you started with these unusually named cakes? Sarah hesitated, then told him about the collapsed cake, Melissa's cutting remark, and finding her grandmother's recipe box. Rose Whitfield, Pastor Miller interrupted, eyes widening. Your grandmother was Rose Whitfield? Yes, Sarah said, surprised. Did you know her? The pastor smiled broadly. My dear, Rose provided communion bread for this church for 30 years. And when my wife was diagnosed with cancer, Rose baked something for us every week until she passed, said it was her form of prayer. He stood up, retrieving a key from a drawer. I think Rose would be quite pleased to see her granddaughter using our kitchen. Consider it approved. Sarah blinked back sudden tears. Thank you. This means everything. The Lord works in mysterious ways, Pastor Miller said, handing her the key. Sometimes through cake. As they toured the spacious commercial kitchen with its industrial mixers, double ovens, and walk-in refrigerator, Sarah felt a weight lifting. Emma ran excited circles around the center island. Can we bake now, Mommy? Please. Sarah checked the time. We need to get supplies first. But tomorrow, this becomes Failure Cakes headquarters. On their walk home, Emma skipped ahead while Sarah made mental lists of equipment to bring from their apartment. They'd need to adjust to the new space. Perhaps change their production schedule, but they could fulfill all their pending orders. The business was saved. Her phone buzzed with a new message from Melissa Spencer. The PTA is planning the spring fundraiser next month. Thinking of featuring local businesses. Might be good exposure for your unique cakes. Let's discuss. Sarah smiled. One crisis solved. New opportunities emerging. Just like Grandma Rose's recipe said. The secret is in what they think you lack. Sarah wiped flour from her cheek as she surveyed the church kitchen, now humming with activity. 3 weeks in their new space, and Failure Cakes had found its rhythm. Emma sat at a small desk in the corner, doing homework while occasionally helping with simple tasks. A radio played softly, and the air smelled of vanilla and cinnamon. 20 career killer cupcakes for the law firm retirement party, Sarah announced, checking them off her list. And the family disappointment tiramisu for the Garcia family reunion is chilling. The bell on the side door jingled. Carlos entered, carrying a stack of their branded cake boxes, simple white with Failure Cakes in elegant script. Delivery went great. The real estate office wants to place a standing order for client appreciation gifts. Perfect. Sarah smiled. We can discuss details. The bell jingled again. A woman with a notebook and professional camera entered, looking around curiously. Sarah Whitfield. I'm Alicia Chen from Riverside Monthly Magazine. We spoke on the phone about the feature article. Sarah smoothed her apron nervously. When Alicia had called, requesting an interview about local food entrepreneurs, Sarah had agreed without thinking it through. Now, with the reporter actually here, her stomach fluttered. Of course. Welcome to our kitchen. Alicia glanced around, taking notes. So this is where the magic happens. Tell me how Failure Cakes began. As Sarah recounted her story, Alicia's camera clicked, continuously capturing the handwritten production schedule. Emma helping with sprinkles, the framed photo of Grandma Rose, now hanging near the mixer, and each cake is named after something negative someone said to you, Alicia confirmed, examining the menu board. Not just to me anymore, Sarah explained. Customers can name their cakes after their own experiences. The Never Get Into Med school cake was ordered by a new doctor celebrating her residency. The 2 old 4 college cupcakes were for a woman's graduation at 52. Alicia smiled. It's become a community catharsis through dessert. Exactly. Everyone has a story of being underestimated. Failure Cakes lets them serve that story with a side of sweetness. I'd love to photograph you and Emma working together, Alicia suggested. Our readers respond to authentic family moments. Sarah hesitated. She'd been careful to keep Emma's involvement minimal, homework first, limited hands-on time, just a few pictures. Alicia promised, this could really boost your business. Sarah nodded, calling Emma over to help decorate cupcakes for the photo. Her daughter beamed with pride, carefully placing sugar flowers while Alicia captured the moment. Final question, Alicia said, reviewing her notes. What's been your most meaningful cake so far? Sarah considered the dozens of orders they'd fulfilled. There was a woman who ordered a simple vanilla cake called the Divorce Disaster. She was celebrating 1 year since her ex told her she'd never survived without him. She brought her friends and they all wore party hats while eating it. Alicia's pen moved quickly. That's perfect for our headline, Sweet Revenge, How Insults Became Desserts. The article will run next week. After Alicia left, Sarah checked their supply inventory while Emma washed utensils, a job she claimed as her special responsibility. Are we going to be in a real magazine, Mummy? It looks that way, sweetie. Will we be famous? Sarah laughed. Probably just a little bit famous. Local famous. That evening, as they locked up the kitchen, Sarah's phone chimed with an email notification. Alicia had sent a preview of one of the photos. Sarah and Emma, flower-dusted and smiling, their hands joined in the act of frosting a cake. The image captured everything failure cakes had become, not just a business, but a journey of healing and connection. Sarah forwarded the photo to her mother. In Arizona, with the subject line, Coming Soon, to Riverside Monthly magazine. Her mother's response came minutes later. Rose would be so proud. We all are. That night, Sarah added a new entry to the budget spreadsheet. She kept a growing column labeled Emma's College Fund. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future built on flour, sugar, and the sweet taste of proving everyone wrong. The magazine feature changed everything. What had been a steady stream of orders became a flood. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly with notifications. The Failure Cakes Facebook page gained hundreds of followers overnight. Emails arrived from neighboring towns asking about delivery options. I can't keep up, Sarah murmured, reviewing the order book. 27 cakes due in the next 5 days. Impossible for one person. She leaned against the industrial mixer, exhaustion seeping into her bones. She'd been at the kitchen since 5 a.m., would work until midnight, and still wouldn't complete all the orders on schedule. The side door opened, and Tanya Lopez peered in, a single mother Sarah had met at one of Emma's school events. You look like you need coffee, Tanya said, holding out a to-go cup, and maybe an extra pair of hands. Sarah accepted the coffee gratefully. How did you know? Emma mentioned to my Zoe that you've been working crazy hours. Tanya gestured to the overflowing order book. I've got restaurant experience. Used to be a pastry assistant before my divorce. Sarah hesitated. Hiring help meant additional expenses, training time, sharing Grandma Rose's recipes. I can't pay much, she admitted. Tanya shrugged. I'm between jobs. Anything helps, and my schedule's flexible while I'm looking. An hour later, Tanya was efficiently preparing cake pans while Sarah mixed batter. By afternoon, they'd completed twice Sarah's usual daily output. You're hired, Sarah declared, watching Tanya's expert handling of the piping bag. Part-time, to start. But if orders keep increasing, I'm in, Tanya grinned. Never thought I'd be decorating a cake called Dead End Job. That evening, Sarah picked up Emma from her after-school program an hour late, guilt gnawing at her. Emma's drawings and homework papers were scattered across the desk in the kitchen corner, untouched since morning. I'm sorry I couldn't help with homework today, sweetie, Sarah said as they walked home. Things have been super busy. It's okay, Emma replied quietly. Miss Peterson helped me. Sarah noticed her daughter's subdued tone. Everything all right? Emma kicked a pebble on the sidewalk. Maddie invited me to her sleepover on Friday. But you said we have to make cupcakes for the big order. Sarah's heart sank. She'd been so focused on keeping up with orders that Emma's social life had taken a back seat. I forgot about the sleepover, she admitted. With Tanya helping now, maybe we can work something out. Emma's face brightened slightly. Really, being successful shouldn't mean missing out on fun. The next morning, Sarah's phone rang as she unlocked the kitchen. A local coffee shop owner wanted to discuss wholesale orders 50 mini cakes per week for their display case. We'd need your price list and delivery schedule. the owner explained, and of course, we'd want consistency in product quality. Sarah scribbled notes, mind racing. Wholesale would mean guaranteed income, but required scaling up production further. They'd need systems, formal recipes, quality control. I'll email you a proposal by tomorrow, she promised. After hanging up, Sarah stared at her growing to-do list. She needed to organize deliveries, manage inventory, train Tanya, develop wholesale pricing, and still produce dozens of custom orders, and somehow be present for Emma. That afternoon, while supervising both Tanya's decorating and Emma's homework, Sarah's vision blurred with fatigue. She'd been awake for nearly 20 hours. "Mom, you spelled disappointment wrong on the cake tag," Emma pointed out. Sarah blinked at the label for the family disappointment tiramisu. The letters swam before her eyes. "Maybe you should sit down," Tanya suggested, gently taking the label from Sarah's hands. "I can finish these." Sarah nodded, collapsing onto a chair. Success was everything she'd wanted, but the pace was unsustainable. Something had to give. As if reading her thoughts, Emma slid a drawing across the table, stick figures of her and Sarah surrounded by cakes, but with a big red X over a stick figure bed. "That's you not sleeping," Emma explained matter-of-factly. Sarah stared at the drawing, reality sinking in. She was building a business meant to secure their future but missing their present in the process. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to make some changes. Have you seen this?" Tanya handed Sarah her phone as they prepared morning deliveries. On the screen was an Instagram post from Spencer's Sweet Sophistication, a new bakery announcing its grand opening. The photo showed elegant petit fours and macarons arranged on silver platters, and behind them stood Melissa Spencer, perfectly coiffed and smiling. "Melissa's opening a bakery." Sarah stared at the post, reading the caption, "Bringing truly refined desserts to Riverside, now accepting orders for our signature luxury collection." The location was barely 3 blocks from the church kitchen. "Didn't you say she was the one who told me to stick to cleaning toilets?" "Yes." Sarah handed the phone back, a knot forming in her stomach. Interesting timing. Throughout the day, Sarah checked Melissa's social media between orders. Spencer's Sweet Sophistication was everything. Failure Cakes wasn't high-end, traditionally elegant, with French-inspired creations and gold leaf accents, the opposite of Sarah's homey, story-driven cakes. "You're obsessing," Tanya commented, catching Sarah scrolling through the posts again. "I'm just keeping track of the competition," Sarah replied defensively. But the worry persisted. Melissa had connections throughout town, country club memberships, PTA leadership, charity board positions. She could easily steer clients away from failure cakes. The next morning, Sarah received a text from Jessica, her first regular customer. "Hate to do this, but need to cancel next week's order. Going with Spencer's new place for daughter's graduation party. Sorry." By afternoon, 2 more cancellations arrived. Sarah's chest tightened as she crossed them off the production schedule. "It's fine," she told Tanya. "We're still overbooked." But it wasn't fine. When Sarah picked up Emma from school, she spotted Melissa handing out elegant bakery boxes to parents in the pickup line. "Free samples from Spencer's Sweet Sophistication," Melissa announced, bringing a touch of Paris to Riverside. Parents eagerly accepted the boxes, including several of Sarah's customers. That evening, Sarah checked their finances while Emma practiced reading. The cancellations had already impacted their projected income. If the trend continued, double quotes, "Mommy, listen to me read." Emma held up her book, face expectant. "Just a minute, sweetie." Sarah continued typing figures into her spreadsheet. Emma lowered the book, disappointment evident. "You always say that now." The comment stung. Sarah closed her laptop and moved to sit beside her daughter. "You're right. I'm sorry. Read to me." As Emma stumbled through the story, Sarah's mind kept drifting to Melissa's bakery. Should she lower prices to compete? Create more sophisticated designs? The anxiety was consuming her focus even here, during precious time with Emma. The little duck found his way home. Emma read the final line. The end. "That was excellent reading," Sarah said, hugging her. "You're getting so good." Emma beamed. "Miss Foster says I'm the best reader in class now. That doesn't surprise me." "You're amazing." Emma snuggled closer. "If I'm amazing at reading, and you're amazing at cakes, why are you so worried about that mean lady's bakery?" Sarah blinked, surprised by her daughter's perception. "What makes you think I'm worried?" "You keep looking at her pictures and making your scared face." My scared face, Emma demonstrated, furrowing her brow and pursing her lips exactly as Sarah did when anxious. Sarah laughed despite herself. That's pretty accurate. Your cakes taste like love, Emma said simply. Ms. Foster told me that. She said the mean lady's cakes might be prettier, but yours taste like love. Sarah felt something loosen in her chest, perspective shifting through her daughter's eyes. Failure cakes had never been about competing with perfection. It had been about embracing imperfection, transforming rejection into something sweet. She'd been so worried about Melissa stealing customers that she'd nearly forgotten what made her business special in the first place. You're right, Sarah said softly. I got scared of losing what we've built. We just need to make cakes that taste like more love, Emma declared confidently. Sarah smiled, running her fingers through Emma's curls. That's exactly what we need to do. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the kitchen with renewed determination. She created a new sign for their order counter. We don't make the prettiest cakes in town. We make the ones with the best stories, the most heart. Rather than lowering prices to match Melissa's introductory discounts, Sarah added a personal note to each order, thanking customers for supporting Failure Cakes and the stories behind their desserts. We're not competing on luxury, she told Tanya. We're remembering who we are. Rent's going up by how much? Sarah clutched her phone, staring out the church kitchen window. Her landlord's voice crackled through the speaker, explaining the 30% increase on their apartment. The area is getting more desirable, he said. Can't help market forces. After ending the call, Sarah slumped against the counter. The business was doing well despite Melissa's competition, but their living expenses kept rising. Between rent increases and Emma's growing needs, they were still just getting by. Everything okay? Pastor Miller asked, appearing in the doorway with a stack of mail. Just apartment issues, Sarah sighed. Sometimes it feels like we're running in place. The pastor nodded sympathetically, then brightened. Oh, this came for you. He handed her an envelope addressed to Failure Cakes. Looks official. Inside was a check from Riverside Monthly Magazine payment for an advertisement they'd run featuring her cakes. Sarah had almost forgotten about it. $800, she whispered, staring at the amount. Quite a blessing, Pastor Miller remarked. It would cover the rent increase for a few months, but but what? He prompted. Sarah hesitated. I've been thinking about something bigger, a permanent solution, not just another temporary fix. That evening, Sarah walked home slowly, mind churning. On Main Street, she passed a small storefront with a for-lease sign in the window. The former bookshop had been vacant for months, its charming bay window gathering dust. On impulse, she jotted down the realtor's number. Later, after Emma was asleep, Sarah created a spreadsheet titled Bakery Dream. She entered their current finances, projected income, and estimated costs for a retail location. The numbers were daunting but not impossible. The next day, she called the realtor and arranged a viewing. It needs work, the agent warned as she unlocked the empty shop. Been vacant almost a year. The space was smaller than Sarah expected, perhaps 800 square feet with a main room and a back area that had housed the bookstore's storage. Dust covered the hardwood floors, and water stains marked one ceiling corner, but the large front window let in beautiful natural light. The location, just 2 blocks from Emma's school, was perfect. And the monthly rent, while significant, wasn't astronomical for a commercial space. There's no commercial kitchen, the agent pointed out. You'd need permits to install one. Sarah nodded, mentally calculating renovation costs. And the lease terms, 2 years minimum. First and last month's rent as deposit, plus security. Sarah thanked her, saying she'd consider it. For the next week, Sarah consulted contractors, researched small business loans, and revised her business plan dozens of times. The magazine check would cover part of the deposit, but they'd need more. What do you think? She asked Emma, showing her photos of the storefront on Saturday morning. Would we bake cakes there? Emma asked, eyes wide. We would, and sell them right there too. No more deliveries back and forth. Could I have my own special corner for homework and helping? Sarah smiled. Absolutely. It would be our place. Then, I think yes, Emma declared with the certainty only a child could muster. That afternoon, Sarah visited Riverside Community Bank, loan application in hand. She'd chosen it specifically because her grandmother had banked there for decades. The loan officer, Mr. Patel, reviewed her materials with a neutral expression. Your business is quite new, Ms. Whitfield, less than 6 months old. But growing steadily, Sarah pointed out, showing him their revenue trends. And we have consistent wholesale accounts now. The lack of collateral is concerning, he continued. And your personal credit history shows some late payments. After my divorce, Sarah explained. But I've been rebuilding, I understand. But bank policies require. Rose Whitfield was my grandmother, Sarah interrupted, feeling a sudden urgency. She banked here for 30 years. Mr. Patel paused. Rose Whitfield, the bakery owner. Yes, she taught me everything I know about baking. His expression softened. My father took over this branch 20 years ago. He used to mention a baker who brought cinnamon rolls every Christmas. He studied Sarah more carefully. You have her recipes. I do, including her secret last resort cake, which started my business. Mr. Patel tapped his pen thoughtfully. Our small business program does allow for character considerations in certain cases. Let me see what I can do. 2 days later, Sarah received the call. Her loan was approved for enough to cover the security deposit, first and last month's rent, and basic renovations. Not enough for new professional equipment, but enough to start. That evening, Sarah and Emma stood outside the empty storefront, soon to be Failure Cakes Bakery. This is really happening, Sarah whispered, arm around her daughter's shoulders. Emma pressed her nose against the glass. Can we paint it purple? Sarah laughed. We can discuss colors. But first, we signed the lease. As they walked home, Sarah mentally composed the announcement for their social media. Failure Cakes is putting down roots, because sometimes what looks like the end is just the beginning. Is that straight? Sarah called, balancing precariously on a stepladder as she hung the hand-painted sign above the storefront. The words, Failure Cakes Bakery, gleamed in deep purple lettering against a cream background. Little higher on the left, Carlos directed from the sidewalk. Perfect. 6 weeks of renovation had transformed the dusty bookstore into a warm, inviting bakery. The hardwood floors now gleamed under strategically placed vintage tables and chairs. The walls, painted a soft lavender at Emma's insistence, displayed framed photos of Sarah's most memorable creations, each with its failure-inspired name, prominently noted. Behind the glass display counter, shelves waited to be filled with the day's offerings. The kitchen, though modest in size, housed enough professional equipment to handle their current order volume, with room to grow. What do you think? Sarah asked, climbing down to stand beside Emma. Her daughter bounced on her toes. It's the prettiest place ever. Can I show people my special corner? Emma's corner, a small nook with a child-sized desk, colorful cushions, and a bookshelf, had become her domain during the renovation. Several of her drawings were already framed on the wall above it. Absolutely, Sarah smiled. Tomorrow, when we officially opened, the grand opening had been advertised throughout town, flyers at local businesses, social media announcements, even a small ad in the newspaper. Sarah had no idea how many people might show up, but she'd prepared for a crowd. That evening, last night in the apartment, Sarah tucked Emma into bed surrounded by packed boxes. Tomorrow's the big day, she whispered, brushing hair from her daughter's forehead. I'm not scared, Emma declared sleepily. Are you scared, Mommy? Sarah considered the question. A little, but it's the good kind of scared, like before opening a present. The bakery is our present, Emma murmured, drifting towards sleep. From Grandma Rose. Sarah kissed her daughter's cheek, thinking about the journey that had brought them here, from tears over a collapsed cake to their own frontal, because someone had told her to stick to cleaning toilets. At 5 a.m., Sarah and Tanya began baking in their new kitchen. By 8:30, the display cases overflowed with their signature creations: toilet cleaner vanilla cake, single mom special cupcakes, family disappointment tiramisu, and a dozen other failure-inspired treats. For the grand opening, Sarah had created something special, a towering 3-tier cake called the Last Laugh, with a miniature fondant toilet brush as the topper. At 9:55 a.m., Sarah peered through the front window. Her heart skipped. A line had formed down the block. There must be 50 people out there, she whispered to Tanya. 62, corrected Carlos, who'd been helping with final preparations. I counted, among the crowd. Sarah spotted familiar faces: Jessica and her daughter, Diane Foster, with several teachers, Pastor Miller and church members, even Mr. Patel from the bank. And standing across the street, watching from a distance, was Melissa Spencer. At precisely 10 a.m., Sarah opened the door, Emma at her side, holding oversized scissors for the ribbon cutting. "Welcome to Failure Cakes Bakery," Sarah announced to applause, where every setback becomes something sweet. She bent down to Emma's level. "Ready, sweetie?" Emma nodded solemnly, then giggled as they cut the purple ribbon together. As the first customers streamed in, exclaiming over the decor and display cases, Sarah felt a surreal sense of accomplishment. 6 months ago, she'd been crying in her bathroom over a ruined cake and past due rent. Now she stood in her own bakery, watching her daughter proudly show Jessica's teenager the helper corner. The bell above the door jingled continuously as more people entered. Tanya worked the register while Sarah greeted customers and explained cake names. By noon, half their inventory had sold out. By closing time, only crumbs remained, and their order book was filled for the next 2 weeks. "I'd call that a success," Tanya said as they locked up. Sarah smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. Funny how success can grow from failure, isn't it? 3 months after opening the bakery, Sarah arrived early to prepare for a large wedding order. Autumn had arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and changing leaves that framed the shop window in fiery orange and gold. As she unlocked the door, she noticed something unusual across the street. Spencer's sweet sophistication, normally meticulous in appearance, had no lights on despite the early hour. The elegant window display hadn't changed in weeks. While the mixer whirred, Sarah checked social media. Melissa's bakery page showed decreased posting frequency and fewer customer photos. Their last update mentioned temporarily adjusted hours due to staffing changes. Sarah frowned. Competition aside, seeing any small business struggle didn't feel right. After the morning rush, Sarah sent Tanya to handle a catering delivery and managed the counter herself. During a rare quiet moment, the bell jingled, and Sarah looked up from arranging cupcakes. Melissa Spencer stood in the doorway, her perfect appearance slightly frayed around the edges. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her typically immaculate hair looked hastily styled. "Welcome to Failure Cakes," Sarah said evenly. Unsure what to expect, Melissa approached the counter, glancing around at the bustling shop. "Quite the success story you've created here." "We've been fortunate," Sarah replied carefully. "What can I get for you?" "Actually, I'm picking up my son from soccer practice early. He's coming down with something." Melissa glanced at her watch. "I have 20 minutes to kill." An awkward silence fell between them. "Coffee?" Sarah offered finally. "On the house." After a moment's hesitation, Melissa nodded. "Black, please." Sarah poured 2 cups and gestured to a small table near the window. Business was slow enough that she could take a brief break. They sat, 2 bakery owners on opposite ends of the success spectrum, sipping coffee without speaking. "Your daughter isn't here today?" Melissa finally asked. "School field trip," Sarah explained. "Aquarium." Melissa nodded. "Nice that you can manage without her." "Tyler practically lives at the bakery with me now. His father's work schedule changed. So," she trailed off, then added quietly, "he misses normal dinners, bedtimes." Sarah recognized the exhaustion in Melissa's voice. She'd felt it herself, not long ago. "How's business?" she asked, though she suspected the answer. Melissa stared into her coffee, challenging. "Turns out, high-end and recession-proof aren't synonymous." Before Sarah could respond, Melissa's phone rang. She answered quickly, expression changing to concern. "Yes, this is she." Pause. "I understand." "No, that's fine. I'll be right there." She hung up, face pale. "Tyler's running a fever. I need to get him." "Of course." Sarah stood. "I hope it's nothing serious." "Just one more complication," Melissa muttered, gathering her purse. At the door, she paused. "Your cakes really are exceptional. You know, Tyler still talks about that vanilla one." Sarah watched through the window as Melissa hurried down the street, recognizing the harried walk of a worried mother. That evening, as Sarah closed the shop, an idea took root. She checked their inventory, then pulled out Grandma Rose's recipe box, searching for a specific card. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the bakery earlier than usual. She baked and decorated with particular care a simple but elegant chocolate cake with ganache frosting. No excessive embellishments, just perfect execution. On a small card, she wrote, "The competitor's courage because it takes true strength to keep going when things get tough." At 9:30 a.m., Sarah stood outside Spencer's Sweet Sophistication. The open sign was turned to closed, though the posted hours indicated they should be open. Through the window, she could see Melissa alone, working on paperwork. Sarah knocked gently. Melissa looked up, surprise crossing her face. After a moment, she came to unlock the door. "We're not actually open yet," she began. "I know," Sarah said, offering the cake box. "This is for you. No strings attached." Melissa hesitated before accepting it. When she opened the box and read the card, her carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. "Why would you do this?" she asked quietly. "Because I remember what it feels like," Sarah answered honestly. "Trying to be everything to everyone, business owner, mother, provider, while watching something you've built struggle." Melissa blinked rapidly. "I never thought I'd be the one failing." "It's not failure," Sarah said. "It's just a difficult chapter." For a moment, they stood in understanding silence to single mothers, navigating the complicated balance of ambition and parenthood. "Thank you," Melissa said finally, genuine gratitude in her voice. Sarah nodded. "Anytime you want to do what?" Tanya stared at Sarah across the kitchen counter. The morning rush had ended, leaving them a quiet moment to talk. "It's just an idea," Sarah said, arranging cupcakes on a display tray. "But I think it could work. A partnership with Melissa Spencer, the woman who told you to stick to cleaning toilets, who opened a competing bakery specifically to undermine you." Sarah winced. "When you put it that way, it does sound crazy." It had been 2 weeks since Sarah had delivered the competitor's courage cake to Melissa. Since then, they'd had several conversations, awkward at first, then gradually more open. Yesterday, Melissa had confided that she was considering closing her bakery. "I just think there's potential to combine strengths," Sarah explained. "Her decorating skills are exceptional, those sugar flowers she creates are art pieces, and her connections in the high-end market could open doors for us." "And what does she get?" Tanya asked skeptically. "Survival, a successful business model, and not having to do everything alone anymore." Before Tanya could respond, the bell jingled. Melissa entered, carrying a portfolio and looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Is this a bad time?" she asked. That Sarah gestured toward their small meeting table. "Not at all. Tanya and I were just discussing some ideas." Melissa sat down, opening her portfolio to reveal detailed sketches of elaborate cake designs, wedding cakes with cascading flowers, anniversary tiers with intricate piping, quinceañera showpieces with delicate sugar sculptures. "These are incredible," Sarah breathed, examining the drawings. "They should be." "I spent 6 months at a pastry academy in Paris learning these techniques." Melissa's pride was evident. "But it turns out Riverside prefers your homey, story-driven approach over French sophistication." "Not necessarily," Sarah countered. "I think they want both comfort and elegance, heart and art. That's why I'm here." Melissa pulled out a business proposal. "Spencer's sweet sophistication is failing. My overhead is too high, my pricing too ambitious for this market, and frankly, I underestimated how hard it would be to run a business while being a single parent." Sarah nodded in understanding. "But," Melissa continued, "Failure Cakes is thriving. You've captured something special, connecting emotional stories to your products. I have design skills that could elevate your offerings for special occasions and weddings." "You're proposing a merger," Sarah said slowly. "I'm proposing a partnership." Melissa pointed to the final page of her presentation. "One location, yours, as it's better positioned and already successful, combined expertise, shared responsibilities, and profits." Sarah studied the numbers. The financial projection made sense. By eliminating Melissa's overhead and combining their client bases, both would benefit. "What would we call it?" Tanya asked, warming to the idea despite her initial skepticism. "I was thinking Rise Up Bakery," Melissa suggested. "From failure to flavor." A nod to both our journeys. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "You're embracing the failure concept." "Let's just say recent events have made me more acquainted with it than I ever expected to be." Melissa's smile held unexpected humility. "Plus, Tyler would never forgive me if the toilet cleaner cake disappeared." Sarah laughed, then grew serious. "There would need to be clear boundaries. Emma's Corner stays. Our pricing remains accessible for everyday customers, and we maintain the failure stories. They're the heart of what we've built." "Agreed," Melissa nodded. "And in return, we expand into the wedding and corporate event market, where the profit margins are significantly higher." They spent the next hour discussing logistics, how to merge operations, divide responsibilities, and combine their distinct styles. "We'd need to update the interior," Melissa noted. Keep the warmth, but add some sophistication for wedding consultations, and create a proper portfolio showing both our capabilities, Sarah added. Tanya shook her head in amazement. From enemies to business partners, in 6 months, only in a small town. By closing time, they had the framework of an agreement. They would announce the merger next week, with a grand reopening planned for the following month. As Melissa gathered her portfolio to leave, Sarah asked the question that had been nagging at her. Why me? You could have approached any bakery in town for a partnership. Melissa paused at the door. Because you did what I couldn't create, something authentic that people connected with, and because you brought me cake when you had every reason not to. After she left, Sarah stood in the quiet shop, contemplating the unexpected turn of events. The woman whose mockery had sparked her business was now becoming part of it. Grandma Rose would have appreciated the irony and the redemption. 1 year to the day after Sarah's cake collapsed at the Tabak sale, Rise Up Bakery was catering the same event. Folding tables lined the school gymnasium, now covered with elegant tablecloths and professional displays of their signature creations. The participation trophy cupcakes are a hit with the kids, Melissa reported, returning to their main table. And Principal Winters loves the administrative nightmare cheesecake squares. Sarah smiled, adjusting the tiered stand of Last Laugh cake slices, now their bestseller. The partnership had proven more successful than either woman had anticipated. Rise Up Bakery had become Riverside's go-to for everything from casual birthday celebrations to elaborate weddings. Mom, Mrs. Garcia wants to know if we can do custom cookies for the holiday fair, Emma called, running up in her miniature Rise Up apron. At 7, she had appointed herself the BAFTA's official ambassador, charming customers with her enthusiasm. Tell her absolutely, Sarah replied, and ask what failure story she wants to feature. As Emma darted off, Melissa shook her head in amusement. She's going to run this place by the time she's 10, probably sooner, Sarah agreed. Your Tyler's not far behind with his marketing ideas. The merger had unexpectedly benefited their children as well. Emma and Tyler had bonded over their shared experiences as bakery kids, creating their own special corner in the shop where they did homework and occasionally experimented with simple recipes. From across the room, Sarah caught sight of Diane Foster approaching with several other teachers. I'm doing a presentation for my education class about community connections, Diane explained after greeting them. Would you mind if I used Rise Up as my case study? The journey from that collapsed cake to this, she gestured at their professional display, is exactly the kind of transformation story my professor wants. We'd be honored, Sarah said, though you might want to interview Melissa too. Her part of the story is equally important. Diane looked between them curiously. I still can't believe you two are partners now, especially after I was spectacularly unkind, Melissa finished dryly. Let's just say life has a way of humbling even the most arrogant among us. Speaking of which, Sarah said, checking her watch, it's almost time for this special announcement. They had prepared something unique for today's event, a new creation that would bring their journey full circle. As the PTA president, no longer Melissa, who had stepped down to focus on the bakery, called for attention, Sarah and Melissa wheeled out a covered cake stand to the center of the gymnasium. Emma and Tyler stood proudly alongside them. 1 year ago, Sarah began, addressing the gathered crowd. I stood in this room with a collapsed cake and wounded pride. And I, Melissa added, stood with misplaced superiority and unkind words. Today, they continued together. We want to unveil our newest creation, one that celebrates transformation, second chances, and the sweet taste of proving yourself wrong. They lifted the cover to reveal a spectacular cake taller and more elaborate than anything they'd previously created. The bottom tier featured rustic home-style frosting in Sarah's signature style. The middle tier showcased Melissa's expert French techniques with delicate sugar flowers. The top tier combined both approaches in perfect harmony. A small handcrafted sign identified it. The last insult lighter, sweeter, and more satisfying than any comeback. Applause rippled through the gymnasium as Sarah cut the first slice. The same people who had witnessed her humiliation now celebrated her triumph. As cake was distributed, Sarah found herself standing beside the exact spot where her creation had collapsed a year earlier. The memory no longer stung. Double quotes Ms. Whitfield. A young student approached with a notebook. Can I interview you for my school project? It's about people who turned bad things into good things. Sarah smiled. I'd be happy to help. My mom says you're resilient, the girl continued earnestly. What does that mean? Sarah considered the question, looking around at what they'd built, not just a successful bakery, but a community, a partnership, a legacy of transformation. It means, she answered, that sometimes the things that break us become the ingredients for something even better. The girl wrote this down carefully, tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. Like your cakes, exactly like our cakes. As the event continued around them, Sarah watched Emma proudly explaining cake flavors to a group of parents, confident, joyful, secure. This was the true measure of their success. Far beyond balance sheets and bakery awards, from failure had come not just flavor, but family. 2 years after the bakery's opening, Sarah stood before a group of nervous faces in Rise Up's newly expanded kitchen space. Once, a small bookstore now included the adjacent storefront, doubling their capacity for both production and customer seating. Welcome to our first official resilience baking class, Sarah announced to the 10 participants. Each of you is here because someone thought you could use some sweet perspective on life's challenges. The group included a recently divorced father, a cancer survivor, a teenager who'd failed out of college, and several others navigating major life transitions. All had been gifted this 6-week course by friends, family, or support organizations. I'm not just going to teach you how to bake, Sarah continued. I'm going to show you how to transform your setbacks into something worth sharing. At a nearby table, Emma now had arranged recipe cards with Grandma Rose's instructions carefully transcribed. The original recipe box sat prominently on a special shelf behind the counter, its weathered wood preserved in a glass case, as Sarah guided the class through their first creation, simple failure cookies, designed to be deliberately arrived with paperwork from their accountant. Quarterly profits are up again, she reported quietly. The scholarship fund is almost fully endowed. The Rise Up Second Chance Scholarship, their newest initiative, would provide baking education for single parents struggling to find stable careers. The first recipient would start classes next month, with childcare provided in Emma's corner, now expanded into a proper children's area. Perfect timing, Sarah smiled. I've been thinking we should offer the winner an apprenticeship too. Their business model had evolved far beyond cakes, with clever names. While those remained their signature products, Rise Up had become a community institution, hosting support groups, providing job training, and creating space for transformation beyond the kitchen. After the class, Sarah found Emma sitting with Tyler at their special table, heads bent over a notebook filled with drawings. What are you designing now? Sarah asked, peering over their shoulders. A cake for career day, Emma explained. I'm going to tell my class about being a baker and business owner. Sarah's heart swelled. That sounds wonderful. It's called the What I Want to Be When I Grow Up cake, Tyler added, because Emma's teacher said girls aren't usually business owners. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Did she now? Don't worry, Emma said confidently. I told her about you and Ms. Melissa and Grandma Rose. Later that evening, as they closed the shop, Sarah found herself alone in the kitchen. Melissa had taken both children for a movie night. Giving Sarah rare solitude. She opened Grandma Rose's recipe box, gently touching the yellowed card that had started everything. The last resort cake instructions still contained those cryptic directions about transforming bitterness and memories of mockery. Now, Sarah understood what Rose had really been teaching. Not just a cake recipe, but a life philosophy. The secret ingredient had never been in the list. It had been in Sarah herself, the resilience that transformed rejection into creation. A soft knock at the back door interrupted her thoughts. A young woman stood there, clutching a toddler, and looking hesitant. I'm sorry, we're closed, Sarah began. I know, the woman said. I saw your flyer about the single-parent scholarship at my support group. The deadline's tomorrow, but my car broke down, and I couldn't get here during business hours to drop off my application. Sarah recognized the desperation in her eyes, the same look she'd had staring at eviction notices while Emma slept. Come in, she said warmly, opening the door wider. I'm Sarah Whitfield, Zoe Martinez, the woman replied, shifting her sleeping child to extend her hand. I know this is unconventional, but baking saved my grandmother's life after she immigrated. Here, I want to learn to create, like she did. Sarah smiled. Sometimes unconventional journeys make the best bakers. She invited Zoe to sit, offering cookies and milk for when the toddler woke. As they talked, Sarah recognized her own story, echoing in this stranger's words, the struggle, the determination, the hope that something sweet could rise from difficult circumstances. When Zoe left an hour later, her application officially submitted, Sarah locked up with a sense of completion. The cycle was continuing, new stories of resilience taking shape, new failures transforming into opportunities. On the counter sat the prototype for tomorrow's spatula, simple cake called New Beginnings, created with Emma during their weekend baking session. Its flavor combined elements of their very first toilet cleaner success with Melissa's French-inspired techniques, topped with decorations designed by both children. Sarah placed it carefully in the refrigerator, thinking about how far they'd come from that collapsed cake at the PTA sale, how a cutting remark had ultimately led to a thriving business, an unlikely partnership, and a legacy that would continue beyond her. Grandma Rose would have approved. The secret ingredient, Sarah whispered to the quiet bakery, was always resilience. And there was always enough to share.